What is up? Okay, today's the day. We're going to do our first gear check video. I have three people from the comments that I'm going to go over. BioForge55, Sync Mixer, and ManX Viking UK. And that's going to go in that order. The first one is a Crusader. The second one is a Wizard. The Wizard is going to go with the Frozen Orb build. So if that's what you've been doing, you might just want to skip to that part. The last profile is ManX Viking UK, and he's on a Barbarian. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get started with BioForge55. Before we talk about him, we're going to go ahead and take a look at his gear just to give him some feedback on what he's currently using. So I'm already looking at these pants and I see the gem, and I'm assuming that you can make a better one since you have high tier strength gems in your chest piece. So maybe that's something that you want to do as soon as you watch this. Okay, so we'll start with the headpiece. Helm of a Khan, that's pretty good. I mean, that's a Satyr helmet, and that's really good. I mean, you got the cooldown on there, and that's because of what his build is. We'll talk about that later, but I like that he has it in there. Critical hit chance was rerolled. That's a good choice. Okay, we'll go on to the Ouroboros. It's a pretty good roll. It's unfortunate that you weren't able to get an elemental roll on that, but I'm assuming that life per hit does actually help you. And the critical hit damage at 60%, that's pretty good. I'm sure in the future you'll try and reroll that to the maximum of 100%. Okay, we'll do the shoulders next. Those are pretty good. I have no complaints there. It would be nice if you find those something like that again to get all resistance on it, because I'm sure that'll help you more than having the life. As it stands, the all resistance doesn't really affect your toughness as much as it should, because in reality it's reducing the total amount of damage that you're taking. And so you'll actually see a lot of increases in effective HP, which is the amount of damage that you can take before you die, from armor and resistance before you can see them from vitality and life. That being said, you do need a lot of vitality and life in order for that to happen. Alright, so the chest piece is pretty good. There's no complaints here. It's a pretty ordinary legendary chainmail. The survival bonus, healing you to full life, that could be useful, especially as a melee character. I'm sure you want to get a chest piece that falls in line with the Khan set. Okay, so let's go on to the bracers. These are alright. I'm noticing right off the bat that you don't have an elemental's roll on this. You have movement speed, which to be honest is really not that worth it. Your Paragon level is 82, but once you hit 200, you're probably going to put all of your Paragon into movement speed, so you can re-roll the movement speed on your items into elemental or skill bonuses. So for example, on legendary bracers, it's a good idea to roll elemental skill damages because they can roll 20%, whereas the rares can only roll a maximum of 15%. But I like that you got the max critical hit chance. That's definitely helping you a ton. Okay, the gloves, these are pretty good. Again, gloves can roll attack speed, and there are legendaries that will roll specific type of elemental damage. And in your case, there are Mage Fists, and we'll get to that later. Court of Sherma, this isn't bad. I actually really like this legendary affix a lot. It procs pretty often, and it can be pretty helpful. The radius of that chaos field is pretty large. Okay, we'll go on to your rings. Okay, this is pretty good. You'll definitely want to get critical hit chance and damage on your rings, so that's something to look out for, but I'm assuming that life per second is helping you a lot. Justice Lantern, this is great. I mean, you're using a shield, 16% chance to block. Hopefully in the future you can find one that rolls critical hit chance instead of vitality, but I think this is a solid choice. I mean, raising your by 16% is just unbeatable right now for Crusaders. Alright, so this is a pretty mediocre set piece of pants. Almost everyone gets this, but I mean, there's nothing you can really go wrong here. I don't know if you re-rolled the sockets yet, but you can get 2 sockets on your pants, so I would either do that or swap the life per hit for all resistance, just depending on how comfortable your build is right now. But to be honest, it's almost not even worth re-rolling, because you'll end up finding better pants like Hexing Pants of Yan or something like that, which will then be worth re-rolling. Okay, the boots, this goes back to what I was talking about earlier. It rolled movement speed, but is that honestly that great? Because what can roll on boots is a skill bonus. You can re-roll that movement speed for a skill bonus on your Crusader, and that's just going to be invaluable compared to the movement speed. I'm noticing that now that we've looked at most of your gear, you don't have a lot of all resistance. And if you're dying a lot, I don't know if you're doing Torment, this looks like it's a build for normal, to be honest, because it'll let you clear it quickly. But at the same time, I don't really understand why you have so much life per hit if that's the case. But having said that, I think your armor is probably pretty high. Let's take a look. I mean, all of this is above 500. That's pretty decent. This one's above 1200, so I mean, you got decent armor rating, I think. But what's probably lacking is your all resistance, and I'm sure if you stacked it, you would see a lot of toughness and damage mitigation. Okay, let's go into the weapons. 2700. It's pretty good. Can't really complain about this. It's not a legendary with the unique affix, so that's one thing to keep in mind going forward. I would not try re-rolling this because of that. It's just not worth your souls. Because to the shield, it's a pretty good shield. Unfortunately, you are not using the legendary affix that this gives you. If we look at your skills, we don't see the blinding shield glare. So what I would say is that's fine for now. Keep this. You have 28% chance to block with this. On addition, you got that 16% up there. That's pretty good. I mean, this is going to serve you well. What I would aim for is there's an Act 2, I believe, Bounty Bag legendary, Coventris shield or something like that, and it increases your block amount by a lot, so I think that that's something that you should aim for just because it's so good. How can you ignore it? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and talk about the build itself. So Bioforge 55 is playing on a Crusader, and he wants to use a Rally rune on Akrat's champion down here. We'll start by focusing on making Rally reach its potential, and then we'll finish with the attributes on items that he should strive for. So with Rally, it appears each time you deal damage, there's 50% chance to reduce the cooldown of your skills by 1 second. Let's think about it like this. Every other hit is reducing our cooldowns. So champion lasts for 20 seconds, so we want to get as many hits as possible in that 20-second window. The best way to achieve this, in my opinion, is to use damage over time, especially with the large area of effect skill, and then follow up with other area of effect skills. I'm already seeing a lot of potential in this build. You already have Bombardment selected, and this is your heavy hitting skill. It's nice that it's got a huge AoE, and I'm not sure if it has DOT or not. It sounds like it does have damage over time. So with the rune you have selected, it seems like Impactful Bombardment is doing one huge hit in a restricted area, which I don't think is really helping your Rally that much. Could be wrong, you'll have to let me know. If you look at the skill without a rune, you can see that it has the same radius as Impactful Bombardment, but will also target enemies outside of the radius for 5 more seconds. One would argue that Annihilate is the best rune for this skill because it gives you 100% crit chance. I think it's wise to use this skill, but you'll have to experiment between not using a rune, using Impactful Bombardment, or Annihilate. Keep in mind that using this skill without a rune, or using it with Impactful Bombardment, would be optimal for reducing our cooldowns from Rally. While Annihilate will let you hit for the most damage. Here's what I would do. Your crit chance is currently at 38.5%, on your profile anyway. Until you get your critical hit chance to 50% in game, use Annihilate. You want that to hit hard. Once you hit that threshold, half of your hits are critical, so why use that rune anymore? Okay, so now you just use Bombardment and you're going to be using your primary Wrath Generator and Splendor now. What we want here are skills that have the most potential to hit multiple targets in the shortest time, with minor emphasis on the amount of damage they do, because honestly, we just want to be able to use Bombardment again as soon as possible. There are 2 that I'm considering for you, Slash with Carve, or Justice with Hammer of Pursuit. Slash is a fire skill, Justice is a holy skill. Remember that for later. For the Wrath Spender, I like the idea of Blessed Shield. There are 2 runes to consider here, Combust for fire damage, or Shattering Throw as holy damage. You're already using Shattering Throw. The rest of the skills I'll let you decide, since you're basically going to be choosing between passes for the rest. Okay, on to attributes for the items. I think you should focus on fire elemental bonuses. And so you'll end up using Slash with Carve and Combust on the Blessed Shield. Here are the items you want. We will go top to bottom. For the helm, Andario's Visage is going to be spectacular. Try to reroll the damage on it for fire type. For the chest piece, you want Cinder Coat. It reduces the cost of fire skills as well as giving you fire damage bonus. For the gloves, Mage Fist. Use your passive to one-hand a Maximus and get a lidless wall shield with fire damage on it. You may find a Burning Axe of Sancus or Devastator. These are one-handed weapons before you find that Maximus, and they may serve you until you find it. A Stone of Jordan would help against elites as well as giving you fire damage, but it might be hard to find and get a good roll on it. Another stat you will find useful is cooldown reduction. You've already used this in your helm, and if you can get it from other gear, I'm sure it'll help a lot. To get this, you may have to sacrifice some stats on your shoulders, put a diamond in your helm, things like that. I hope that helps and gives you some goals for farming and gambling. Okay, next up is the Wizard. Sync Mixer here, we're going to take a look at his gear. Okay, critical hit chance, armor, intelligence, vitality. Again, you're going to have to see if you need more armor or vitality, calculate which one is lower and start putting points into that until they're about even in that 1 to 10 ratio, 1 being resistance, 10 being armor. I really like this amulet, it's pretty good. I'm sure as you experiment more with ROS, you're going to find that having elemental damage over that attack speed increase is going to end up giving you more DPS on your amulet. Shoulders are good. I like that you have Black Hole on it and you're actually using that skill as well, so great job getting the synergy out of that. Chest piece is good, gems are lacking, but I'm sure you'll get there eventually. This is a mediocre chest piece in my opinion. When you fall below 24% life, as a wizard you never really want to be in that position, and if you are, it might mean that you're going to die soon. So I would also re-roll, if you haven't re-rolled the sockets on this, re-roll the 12% life or the 466 vitality for all resistance, whichever one will give you more life. And basically, if your vitality is already low, then go with the percent life. But if your life is high, then re-roll the vitality. And so the bracers are good. You have critical hit chance, intelligence, vitality, cold skill. It's great. The gloves are also really good. You're going to end up wanting to replace these with a legendary that'll give you an elemental bonus. This is pretty good. It's got a legendary affix helping you with the black hole, so no complaints there. I would re-roll the life per second or percent life for all resistance. Okay, so this ring is good. I mean, it didn't get that great of a roll, but I'm sure it's going to help you in getting set bonuses later. So what I would do is don't re-roll this yet. Wait until you find a couple set pieces of something that you really want to use, and then worry about re-rolling this to get some of the extra stats, because spending the souls on this for spending the souls on those set pieces you find is not worth it, because you're going to get set bonuses that are going to end up giving you more damage off sheet or on sheet than re-rolling this ring will. This is a pretty good ring. I have no real complaints about this. The percent life again, it's okay, but as a wizard you don't need to stress it as much. So these pants need 2 sockets. These aren't really good at all, and you'll probably end up getting legendaries to replace this. Boots are okay. This goes back to what I was talking about with the Crusader. Percent movement speed, you really don't want to have that in your equipment. You want to put your Paragon points into that so that you can re-roll your equipment for better stats. The sources are rare, which means that it's really not that great in terms of the maximum stats it can roll. You'll end up probably getting a legendary source or a set source that'll really give you a lot of damage, and it'll increase so much. It's incredible the difference between legendary sources and rare sources. So your wand is also subpar. You really want the highest emerald that you can get in there, and I would say that getting the maximum gem for your weapon is the most important part. Instead of the other gems for your gear, this is what's going to help you the most, because critical hit damage is so hard to get on gear as it is. Also, the damage is below 2000 for a level 70 weapon. That's pretty low. I'm sure you'll end up finding a legendary that'll give you 2300 or so damage, and I'm talking about Chantotos here. They can roll pretty well. Okay, so it looks like you're running a typical Frozen Orb build. Right off the bat, I noticed your critical hit chance is below 50%, so try to get it there if you can. It's wonderful that you have 2 items contributing to Arcane Orb, but you only have 1 item giving you the cold skill damage, that's being your bracers. For wizards, you will get a lot of synergy out of using the set items for Frozen Orb, and I'm talking about Talrashas here. I want to mention something that you're doing, but it might not be apparent. You are using Elemental Exposure down here. This gives you damage buffs for dealing different types of damage. Keep in mind that the elemental on your weapon is considered in this buff. You have a fire weapon, and that's so perfect for that passive. That being said, a lot of your items need upgrades. For instance, you can find a decent set of legendary bracers. All legendary bracers can roll a maximum of 20% elemental skill damage, whereas their yellow counterparts can only do 15%. That should be a simple starting point for you, because bracers drop pretty readily, and you can probably gamble with Kadala if you like. From there, you want to get any Talrashas item, like the belt and the chest pieces. Specifically, you definitely want the chest piece because it can roll attack speed. This will give you the additional bonus to all elemental types as well, helping those short little bursts of other elements that you're doing. Andariel's Visage is a good option yet again. These gloves will be very hard to get. They are Frostburn gauntlets. I suggest pouring all of your gambling efforts into this until you find it, because it takes a really long time to find. Resource regeneration will be key for you while you're moving between enemies, so Hexing Pants of Yon will help out a ton, but will require you to raise your personal mechanics by moving as much as possible while you're playing. Your weapon's damage is really low, and if you want to capitalize on the elemental bonuses, Utar's Roar or Azurath will help you out. Or you may be lucky to find a Chantoda's Wand and Source, giving you a huge intelligence bonus. A source you want to look out for is Winter Flurry. As an amulet, Eye of Itlich would be useful, but kind of hard to roll. Again, Stone of Jordan will be very helpful. These are some of the endgame pieces for you sitting on this screen right here, if you'd like to stick with Frozen Orb, that is. So to summarize, you're doing a great job using the Arcane Orb bonuses, but you need to capitalize on the bonus cold damage, as well as getting better legendaries for your gear. Your Ring of Royal Grandeur is really going to help you get there quicker. Keep that in mind. Okay, so on to Manx Viking UK. This is what he wrote. Hey, nice informative videos. Thank you, I appreciate that comment. I figure it's a good chance to bounce some ideas off you. I'm currently running a Fire Whirlwind spec I took off Diablo fans. It's been really effective so far. Switched to a Maximus, but I was using a Devastator with level 60 Thunder Fury. Still worked out better DPS than other weapons on GOM. Obviously, still looking for either 70 Thunder Fury or a Shard of Hate so I can really get an upgrade. One question I'd really like to have your thoughts on is with my amulet. I've been trying to reroll it to a high crit damage, at least 80%, but I've rerolled it about 30 times now. But I managed to get the 20% fire damage. Would that be better than a near max crit damage or not? I'd always thought that elemental skill damage suffered diminishing returns as well. P.S. Check out the rolls on the leggings and the pretty awesome Stone of Jordan roll. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at your gear. That was weird. Did you see that? What? Okay, I'm not sure which one you are using. That's kind of interesting if you do it over here. Huh, okay, whatever. I don't know what you're using for your helm, but I'm assuming you're using Auguild since you have the shoulders over here. It's a pretty good roll. You'd probably want a life socket in there because you're a barbarian, so that would help out a ton. Or a reduced cooldown because of things like, oh, I don't know, Wrath of the Barbarian. Auguild's Powder is good. You have this 20% area damage, which can be pretty useful for a barb since it's hard to find good AoE anyway. I like that you're working on the Raker's set. That's going to help a ton. I mean, the Furious Charge will help so much in the later torments. Belt is pretty good. I like that you're using one that helps with one of your skills, the Warcry being that. That being said, it does have a frenzy damage roll on it, and you're not using that, so something needs to be done about that, but I already see you re-rolled the resistance. So maybe just hold out until you get something similar, or a Witching Hour or something like that. We'll do your amulet last. Okay, so the braces are pretty good. I mean, Nemesis, that's going to help you a ton, and just getting more drops in general. Fire damage, I like that, since you're using fire skills. Mage Fist, awesome. You're using fire skills again, that's great. You go on to your ring, it's pretty awesome. Ring of Royal Grandeur. This is what everyone should strive for. The Stone of Jordan is really good. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that Stone of Jordan can roll an elemental skill bonus. So in this case, I would say having that skill bonus instead of that strength might be useful. But I think this is awesome. I mean, the reduction of control and pairing effects, as well as the damage against elites, is going to be so great. Well, that's so weird. Okay, depth diggers. These are pretty good roll. Unfortunately, these do not have a legendary affix, so it's hard to say that these are worth keeping, to be honest. But I mean, they're great. I mean, they're perfect roll. But I'm sure you'll end up finding something to replace these, especially something in line with the Raker set. So Firewalkers, these are pretty common to find. I like that you've re-rolled it for whirlwind damage. And like I've been saying all video, try and re-roll the movement speed next time, because you really want to put all your Paragon into that. And you're over 200 Paragon, so for you it's possible. Maximus is good. I mean, can't complain. Definitely needs a better gem. I would say it's worth having a perfect gem in this more than it's worth having perfect gems in these two. I mean, that's just awesome. This is a perfect example of someone having the weapon that helps their build. We were talking about it earlier. You want to get this weapon, you want to get this weapon to maximize on the elemental damage. Look at this. It says fire skills deal more damage. That's what you want on your weapon as well. You want to capitalize everywhere as much as possible. Okay, so on to his amulet. This is a great but short theory crafting case. Elemental skill damage will not be diminishing ever because it's a flat % increase each time. It's not like once you get to 50% increase, it'll start only doing a 40% increase or something crazy like that. It'll still go up by those % increases. There's no cap on it yet. We'll take a look at your amulet. I can see your critical hit chance is just below 40%. In game, I'm sure it's a bit higher from Paragon, probably putting you near 40 to 45%. Calculating from your items, your critical hit damage is probably 238%. You're probably aware that you want a 10% critical hit damage for every 1% critical hit chance ratio. You will need to buff your critical hit damage to at least 350%. However, you have a really good amulet, my friend. Not to mention, amulets are one of only items that can roll elemental skill bonuses. You can make up your crit damage with a later amulet, or using the gem in your weapon. I say keep the amulet currently. I say this mostly because you have re-rolled it too many times. You will spend way too many souls on this one item instead of other potential gains. In addition, there is a key stat on that item that you may not be considering, the crowd control reduction. You have incredible crowd control reduction from your Stone of Jordan and the Han of Vaxo. I think your gear is looking pretty good so far. I would strive for an Andariel's or the rest of the Raker set, whichever comes first. Pants are really good, perfect roll, that's pretty awesome, sick find. Eventually I'm sure you'll have to replace those with this set item, but I hope that helps you make a decision. Okay, so that concludes our first gear check. Thanks for watching. I found the gear that may roll elemental skill bonuses from this website. So you can see it tells you what the stat is that it can roll, and then it gives you a link to the item. If you click this screen, it'll open in a new window. Yet another tool. Thanks for joining me on this adventure. You are the first few subscribers and I'm thrilled to have you as part of the team. I'm trying to figure out better ways to communicate with you guys because it's kind of hard, other than making videos saying what I want to do, to reach you guys directly. And I don't want to tell people to go follow me on Twitter or tweet me or whatever, but that seems to be the only option right now. So if you want to be able to tell me what you want from the videos or what topics you would like to cover, please tweet me them, because it's really hard for me to go out and try and get feedback from people, because some people want really exclusive things and then other people want broad topics that I've already covered, and it's like they didn't even watch the video. Alright, well I think that's it for me, guys. Peace, I'm out.